Hey guys, how are you all doing today? My name is Franchise Fanatic, and welcome back to the channel. And yes, I have another movie review, and yes, we are tackling a non-Star Wars thing. I know, we're currently in the middle of Star Wars month, however, right now, I'm going to be doing, this is going to be like the third video of a, Star Wars thing. So again, you're going to see a Lego Advent Calendar, then another Star Wars video, and then this on one of the days. Today we're tackling the Mr. Rogers movie, aka A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So, I did see this with my grandma and a few other people from my family, and I kind of had like this thing in my head before we went and saw it. I said, there's going to be either no kids in here, and it's going to be full of grandmas, which is not a bad thing towards grandmas. It's just, I kind of grew up with Mr. Rogers, but I think my mom and dad's generation did more so, and I was right. There was one little girl and like 18 grandmas, so including mine, so I was right. But anyway, going on to this, like I said, this is a PG film for a few different reasons. So anyone 10 until you're dead can watch this movie, right? That's how it goes by the rating system. And let me say that for being a PG movie, this is one of the most thought-provoking, sad, and easily memorable PG films I've ever seen in my life. This is something that you would classify as an R-rated film, but it's nothing. When I mean R-rated, I don't mean the content being, saying the F word, or gruesome violence, or sex, or drugs, whatever it is, whatever that makes like Logan or Joker R-rated. It's the same thing that goes into A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, except that it's rated PG, and it's amazing. I freaking walked into this movie going, oh, it's Mr. Rogers, it should be fun, whatever, who cares? I didn't really want to see it, and then of course, walking out, I was like, this is one of my favorite friggin' movies of the year. It's really, really well made for, again, a PG movie that you would normally associate for kids, which it's for all ages, but let's just pretend most of the idiots on the internet are idiots, and let's be half of them. They kind of are. Not you guys, but, the majority of people on the internet don't know what that means. And let me tell you that this is a movie that kids can watch, but I don't think kids will be very entertained. I think it will bore a lot of children, because even I found myself not bored, but just kind of like, this is really freaking dragging, this is really slow. And that's the whole point. So essentially, me and my grandma and my other family members, we walked into this movie going, okay, this is probably going to be a movie about Mr. Rogers and how he helps people, or it's going to be about his life. I knew it wasn't going to be a documentary, but I didn't know it was really going to be about another character. And I'm talking about Lloyd, not Ninjago the Lloyd, but Lloyd Vogel and the Vogel family. Now, there's not really any spoilers in this movie, so I'm just going to kind of talk about it. Again, it's just kind of is what it is. It's not, Star Wars or Marvel or DC or something like that. But so essentially this guy, Lloyd Vogel, is a very disturbed and sad man, and he essentially is kind of in fighting with his father a lot, right? He doesn't get along with his dad at all. And he's like a journalist, right? So he goes, okay, I'm going to write about this, I'm going to interview this person, like I'm going to interview Stan Lee. I know he's dead, rest in peace, bro. I'm going to view whoever, I don't know, whoever. But then, of course, he goes to, oh, I'm going to interview Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers. And his wife is like, oh, man, that's cool, you're interviewing Mr. Rogers. And he was like, yeah, whatever, to hell with it. He gets really, he's kind of like the polar opposite of Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers played extremely well by Tom Hanks, except for his face. I mean, really quick side note, when I think of Mr. Rogers, he's a skinny, thin guy, right? His face is thin. I mean, Tom Hanks is not fat, but his face is kind of, chubby compared to, Mr. Rogers. And on first glance, I'm like, that ain't Mr. Rogers. But after the movie, I'm like, yeah, it's Mr. Rogers. So Tom Hanks did a great job. But essentially, Tom Hanks plays Mr. Rogers, who is essentially the, like I said, complete polar opposite of Lloyd Vogel. He is happy. He is, he's kind of like a saint. People refer to him in this movie as a saint, and he's not. And even his wife says, hey, Fred makes mistakes. He's not freaking perfect. He just chooses to do things differently than most people would. Instead of punching someone or beating something up with his anger, he plays the piano loud, or he swims, or he prays, or he does whatever. So he is a really good man, and he was a really good man in real life. However, when you compare, Fred to Lloyd, it's like I said, it's complete freaking difference. I mean, Lloyd, essentially, it's a very basic plot, but the plot essentially, like I said, Lloyd Vogel is a newspaper journalist. He interviews Mr. Rogers. He hates his dad, and Mr. Rogers, throughout the film, helps Lloyd to not only, grow as a person, but also grow a better relationship with his father and his family at the same time. Now, throughout this movie, I was expecting a lot of nostalgic moments, and the film literally opens with a beat-for-beat, sound, stage, puppets, everything that you remember from the Mr. Rogers show is literally painstakingly remade using this movie. And one of my family members said that Tom Hanks, Mr. Rogers' bow ties in the movie are actually all from Mr. Rogers' real, bow tie collection. His wife actually, I believe it's 91 or something. She gave him that, so when you see these and all that, that's what he's wearing. So kind of cool. But anyway, with that regard, again, Mr. Rogers helps Lloyd, of course, but in the way they handle it is very deep, very methodical, very I don't know. They handle it in such a mature way for a PG movie. Like, you look at it and go, oh, that behind me, that poster, oh, that's a PG movie, or that behind me, that other poster, that's that. But this movie, you can't really look at it and go, oh, it's PG, it's for kids, It's for all ages, but it's not really for kids at all. I mean, the kid I saw was like 3, and she didn't give a crap, I don't know why she was even there. Thankfully, like I said, the movie is around 107 minutes, I believe, so the exact length of the Lego Movie 2. However, with that, like I said, this plot, as basic as it is, just a guy needs help and Mr. Rogers helps him. The way that they handle it is so well crafted. For instance, when they, in certain movies where they have like a wide pan of like a city or a farmland, and that's telling the audience, hey, the guy's there, or the guy's there, or the guy's wherever, right? And do that in this movie. But when you have a huge wide set of a city or farm, or whatever, a house or neighborhood, it's not filmed. It's shot using the Mr. Rogers play area that he has in the show. How they do that in the show, how it's like, oh, they pan it on a little toy house and then they cut to him in a real house. That's how they do it. But like, for instance, Lloyd and his family get on an airplane, and instead of having the real airplane, it's the toy airplane going like a Lego, and the Lego movies would go like that. It's not as funny, but it goes, it kind of shoots off in the sky and lands like that. Cars go by. Almost every single wide shot is not real life. It's the studio set, and that's really, really cool, and I freaking love that design choice. However, they kind of, like I said, in the beginning of the movie, they do this kind of thing where they kind of run through the movie, or not the movie, the show beat for beat, him singing, him introducing himself, him talking to the audience, and it's really cool because basically everyone in this movie was an adult, and it was cool because, you go, oh, Mr. Rogers, that's a kid's show. And it is a kid's show. But it's one of those children's shows that it's not for all ages. Like, I wouldn't watch it. It's like Thomas and Arthur. But at the same time, it's also for all ages. It's really hard to explain. Because he doesn't just give little children dumb messages, He really does touch the hearts of everyone. It sounds really corny and cheesy when I say that. But, all the layers of cheese aside, it really is true. And it's funny because when he's talking to the camera, Tom Hanks, Mr. Rogers, and he's looking at the camera, it's really, really, it's nostalgic, it's creepy sometimes because it's friggin' eye contact, and then also just the way that he's talking to it feels like he's talking to me, you know what I mean, or you, or whoever sees this movie, and it's really cool the way they do that. But, you know how in every Mr. Rogers episode they start an episode off, and I haven't seen this since I was like 4 or 3 or like 5 or something, but from what I can remember, they usually have some kind of thing like how a newspaper gets made, which they do, or how this gets made, or how someone plays an instrument, but in the beginning it's like this big cart he rolls in, like all these, kind of like a board of all these pictures. And one picture is the lady that he's with, the one is the puppet, and then Friday the 13th, like that puppet. And then the other one is Lloyd Vogel. But Lloyd is really pissed looking, and he's really beat up, he's got a broken nose, and he looks really sad. And when that happened, I mean, my heart freaking went from here to like, boom, it just like, shot my heart, blew up. Because it's such a family-friendly movie, and then it quickly turns to something that isn't so family-friendly. And they do cover things on the real show like war, death, divorce, whatever, mature themes. However, to see it in the movie, it was just like, oh yeah, they do that crap, it's funny. However, it's, how the Lego Ninjago movie and certain other films have like framing devices where they have like a live-action thing in the beginning, Mr. Liao, and then it ends with Mr. Liao, and it kind of, the Lego part is like the bookmark to ending and beginning. This is the same thing. So in the beginning you see Vogel sad, and then in the end you see Vogel in another state. I'm not going to tell you. But really the whole movie, like I said, is Mr. Rogers trying to help Lloyd. And it doesn't falter in being too boring or too exciting. It kind of crosses the line of, you're not bored, but it's a slow-moving movie. It's even slower than Joker. And Joker was a very slow burn of a film, but that's what needed Joker to be. This movie, it didn't really need to be this slow, and as far as only negatives, I mean, the CGI that they used, I couldn't tell if there was any. There probably wasn't, maybe some city shots or whatever. It looked fine. The acting is pitch perfect. Tom Hanks and everyone, I don't know the guy who played Lloyd, but everyone in this movie does a great job. Everyone. Of course, the writing is fine. I don't think there's any issues with it at all. Tom Hanks, again, the script and everything that he has is great. I think the set design and like the costumes and all that, and the set that they recreated, I mean, it looks freaking cool. And be able to see, Mr. Rogers do his puppet, and then like Lloyd kind of moves, walks, and you actually get to see how they make the show. You actually see the boom operator and the writer and the director and all these things. It's really cool to see. And that's probably how they did it in real life. And it's a very realistic, I don't want to say gritty, but it's a realistic take on a kid-friendly show that adults will enjoy a lot. Because you don't have to watch Mr. Rogers as a kid. If you know that he was a kind dude and he did this to that many people, this movie is an example of how he helped people through one guy, which is Lloyd Vogel, and that is really cool. Of course, like I said, he starts the movie on one direction and he ends the movie on another with Lloyd. However, there's a really cool scene where Fred and Lloyd are in a restaurant, and Fred's like, "Hey, Lloyd, I want you to do an exercise with me. I want you to take 1 minute. We're going to just be quiet for 1 minute, and we're going to think about all the people that helped us in our life, parents, friends, whatever." And the director of this movie actually has them be quiet for 1 minute. I didn't count, but I'm assuming it's 1 minute. And it's probably my favorite shot and scene in the whole film, because in the restaurant there's people talking and eating, and then there's cars going by, and there's chatter, and it's loud, it's noisy, like Chuck E. Cheese, or some normal restaurant with a lot of people. Why the hell did I say Chuck E. Cheese? You know what I'm saying? A normal restaurant, Kumo, whatever. And but then when they go during this minute, not only are they quiet, but everyone in the restaurant puts down their forks, and they kind of realize Mr. Rogers is here and he's doing something, he's helping someone. And they kind of, they stop eating and they just kind of sit. But I noticed, and I don't think anyone else that I saw it would notice, but during that minute of silence, there were no more cars and no more people walking. It's like the whole world slowed down for 1 minute, and that was really cool, because there are a lot of scenes in this movie that take place in Lloyd's head, kind of like Joker, but not as intense or strange. But another great design choice is where whenever Lloyd gets angry or sad or anything, you hear like a music beat. It's like, and it gets more intense and loud, and then either he punches someone, or he blacks out, or he faints, or that's the same thing, or he does whatever, something happens bad when that happens. And that was the movie's way of telling the audience, this guy is mad about this. But it sounds really childish and dumb when I say it, but when you watch it, it fits perfectly in with the score, and it really works to sell this emotion that he's feeling. And of course, like I'm saying, I really didn't expect Mr. Rogers or A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood to be this well made and good. But I have to say, this is easily one of my top 5 favorite films of the entire year. And toward the end of December, I will be doing a top 10 best movies that I've seen. But this, like I said, is easily one of the top 5. If you have seen Mr. Rogers when you were a kid, still watch it now. Or if you have not seen it, you just want to see a good drama that is for all ages, but I think most teenagers and adults can enjoy it more than kids. Go check out A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It is freaking amazing. Again, if I were to touch on any negatives, I would have to say that maybe the polar opposite thing, because Mr. Rogers is so upbeat and happy, and he's like a saint. And then you have Lloyd, here's Fred, and here's Lloyd. And I know that some people are like Lloyd, sad, depressed, whatever, but the way that the film handles it, it's almost like he was too sad and depressed and too angsty, And like I said, I know people can get like that, and that's fine, but at the same time, for a movie, this is trying to be a realistic film, and that's not always the same thing. Not everyone feels the same way Lloyd does. And it touches on that in many different ways, but that would have to be, it's such a small negative, just the fact that I think he's a little this or a little that or a little too angry, or, like there's a scene when his father faints, and he's just kind of standing there like this. He didn't give a crap. Like 0 F's just out the window. And I get it from a design and from a directorial standpoint. It makes perfect sense, because that's telling the audience he doesn't care about his father. It doesn't matter to him. You know what I mean? All the crap his dad did, he doesn't care. But to a realistic standpoint, I don't care how mad you are at someone in your family. If someone fainted, I hope to God you'd be helping them, not just standing there like like Spider-Man. Not my problem. You know what I mean? And again, it is a movie. I know that. It's not real life. But when they're trying to recreate realistic things, sometimes those certain scenes and certain shots can fall flat of that. However, all the way forward, like I said, this movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, is beautiful. It really is. And I'm franchise fanatic. I'm not a movie reviewer to every film. I review the franchises I enjoy. And Mr. Rogers really isn't a franchise I enjoy, but I did enjoy this movie, and it really surprised me of how well made it was. And again, if you saw the show, please tell me. And of course, no spoilers for this film in the comments, but I loved it. I'm going to give A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood an A. Again, this is easily one of my top 5 best films of 2019. If you have not seen it, please go see it. I'm not sure how it's doing critically. I don't check that anymore. I don't care. I don't think it's making that much money. I think Frozen 2 is really getting it. And honestly, well, if you did see my Frozen 2 review, I gave, I think, like a B or B plus or something. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Frozen 2 is a good film, but Beautiful in the Neighborhood just blows it out of the way for sure. It really is a better film. And again, top 5 for me to say for not loving Mr. Rogers as a franchise on whole. And, you know, I mean, he was a good person, you know, like Walt Disney or Stan Lee or whoever. But, you know, it really is a great movie. And that's all I can say. There's a lot of deep things in this movie, a lot of great scenes. And it really does, you know, make you feel different types of emotions. It makes you feel uncomfortable sometimes. It makes you feel, you know, sad and happy, and you laugh, and I almost cried. I mean, I don't freaking cry at anything movies. I only cried at like one movie, and that was the Lego movie. But I'm just saying, I only cried at one movie, and I didn't cry at this, but for me to almost cry at a movie, it really gets you. I almost cried in Joker too. But let me say that this movie gets you on a lot of different levels. That's what I'm trying to say. And again, it's a great movie. So again, if you have not seen A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, I'm going to give it an A. Please tell me what you thought without any spoilers in the comments. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.